Welcome everyone to our second weekly webinar. It's currently October 23rd, 2021, and I welcome you all, for those who are new and who have come to our previous one, to our second webinar. And let's jump right in. So your hosts today are going to be Joanna. I think she should be the second one below me. I'm not sure if she's there or not.
Everyone.
Okay, there she is. Cool.
Thank you, Alvin. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Joanna.
And then I'm Elvin, and I'll be your other co-host for today. So let's start off with a quick activity. We're going to ask everyone to just annotate on the screen where you're from. And Joanna will take over talking about where everyone's from. I just want everyone to annotate. If you haven't done it before, I believe it is in I can't really see it right now. I think it's
View options.
view
It's
options.
at the
There you
top
go.
of your screen, view options, and you click on view option, you will see like a toolbar and there's a stamp. You can click on the stamp and then place a heart or like a star on the map to tell us where you are joining us from. I'm always excited to see the little stars appearing on the map, like telling everybody like now we are actually a global community or national community maybe in this virtual space. Myself, I'm joining from New York, and I know Alvin is joining from the West Coast. So I now see a lot of stars on the West Coast. So a lot of people are joining from California. Many hearts are appearing. If you don't have access to the view option, you can just simply type where you are joining us from the chat. That's an available tool for you as well throughout this webinar to tell us what you think and also to tell us any questions in the middle of the webinar. So don't hesitate to use that function too. Great. Anything from the chat? Let me see. Okay, San Dimas, California, also California. Anyone from, okay, maybe I'm the only person joining from New York today. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for your participation, and lovely to have you here. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's super cool to see where you're all from. So now I'm going to clear the annotations. And then I'm going to be turning that off. And then we're going to move on to our next slide. So for those of you, hello? Yeah. For those of you who haven't participated in the 30-day challenge yet or haven't done the previous one regarding mental health, here's just a quick overview of what the 30-day challenge this time is. So we're doing something called the Sustainable Plate Challenge, where we're trying to get 30 days of sustainable actions, small actions for 30 days, so we can make a difference in the world. So for our 30-day challenge, we actually have two main tracks that everyone can do. So you have your first track, which is the Sustainable Living Challenge. You get to choose 1 to 3 actions each day, and you develop these actions for 30 days to develop a habit. So some actions would be like bringing your own grocery bags when shopping, not leaving food on your plate after at the end of your meal, stuff like that. And then you would do 1 to 3 every day for 30 days. And then the other challenge is the Eat Rainbow Challenge. This one is not only are we building sustainable living habits, we're actually going to try to eat different types of foods or not every day, but there's a little challenge on like different colors of foods, different types of foods you would eat to make yourself a healthier person and integrate a healthy plant-based diet into your food. And also learn a few fun food facts here and there. Awesome. So why are we doing this challenge, right? So one of the biggest things is you can't expect everyone to do some big change that fixes the world. However, if every single person does a few small actions every day for a lot of days, then eventually we can make a big change. So through here, we're actually doing 6 of the United Nations sustainable goals. And by following these 6 different goals, we can actually make the world a better place and make a more sustainable food system. So you keep hearing me talk about small actions, right? But where have we seen small actions in effect? For those of you who have been with Tzu Chi, you probably know this story, but for those who haven't, let me just give you a brief overview of how big a change small actions can make, right? So the Tzu Chi Foundation was founded by Dharma Master Zeng Yin. And the origin story goes that in 1966, if I got my year correct, Dharma Master Zeng Yin and 30 housewives saved 5 Taiwanese cents a day, not 5 US cents, or yeah, no, yeah. Well, here and there, story changes, but every day for a long time, and they were just housewives, right? They didn't work, they didn't really make money. They just whatever leftover grocery money they had, they would put 50 cents into a bamboo bank, right? So each person who contributes 50 cents, that's nothing. But when you have 30 of them doing it for years on end, they're eventually able to save up enough money. And then now you can look at where Tzu Chi is, right? Just because there was just this one Dharma master and the 30 housewives, they managed to make such a big change in the world just starting so small. So this is our goal here, right? If each one of us does something super small, over time, eventually we can make a big difference. And yeah. So we do have a video here we can't play, unfortunately, but in your free time, if you're interested, I think we might send this one out in the weekly email. So if any of you are interested, you can just take a quick look at that video.
Thank you so much, Alvin. I'm always very touched to hear that bamboo bank story. And like we mentioned, please watch that video if you are interested after the webinar. And if you have not joined the challenge but are interested, there's where to start. So I believe Yihan will post the link in the chat as well. And please go register on the youngleaders.cg.us website. And then it will lead you, guide you to go to the App Store, whether you are Google Play or you have Apple cell phone, then you can always search CRED.cred, an application, and then download the application and use the code TZUCHI30 to join the challenge. So CRED mobile app is our partner in this challenge. They provide us with this very special application that help us to keep accountability and engage throughout this 30-day challenge. And you can see the different actions in the application once you download it, and then choose the different actions to complete as well. And thank you so much, Yihan, for posting that quick guide in the chat. So take a look, and hope to see you joining the challenge if you have not yet. And in addition to the daily actions that Alvin talked about before, we are also offering weekly webinars for us to build a sense of connections. And on last Saturday, we just had our first webinar for onboarding. And today we have our second webinar, and we will not only connect, but also reflect on how the group has been so far achieved as a group progress. I will show you some interesting data later. And then we will learn some more about sustainability topics from our guest speaker today, and the subject is zero carbon. And this is what we're going to do today in the next 35 to 40 minutes, and connect, reflect, and learn. So an essential feature of this challenge is a sense of connection. And there may be days you feel super motivated and complete all the actions like a habit already, while there may also be times that you are super swamped in the tasks at work or in the school and forgot to do some committed actions. But don't worry, remember, you're not in this alone. We are here as a group. So as a connection exercise today, I would like to invite you to first connect with yourself. Maybe take a deep breath in through your nose and breath out slowly through your mouth. And notice what's on top of your mind now. Perhaps it's an unfinished homework, or maybe you're thinking about what to eat for dinner today. And also take a moment to notice how you feel now. Do you feel tired? You feel restless, or optimistic, or excited? If you don't mind, can you share your feeling with us in the chat? Remember the chat function that we mentioned before? This is where we can also build a virtual community in our during our webinar. I'm looking forward to see some sharing of the feelings in the chat. Let me check. Come. Thank you, Dahi. Good to see you. And Sinton. And by the way, we sometimes often use, good, bad, okay, or busy. Maybe we can try to explore a diverse vocabulary of emotions. For example, those words that you see here on the screen. Grateful, tired, mindful. Thank you so much, everyone. This is a part of the sharing too, and then building connection among ourselves. So how about checking with your feelings and keep track of your energy level and feeling regularly? So this is what you can do in the application as well. So if you download it later, if you already have the application, you can take it out and you will see in the focus main page, you will see checking on the left side of the screen. And then if you click on the check-in, it will take you to a page, which is the one you see on the middle. And you can regularly go in there if you want. It's totally optional. And to check in your energy level, whether you feel green light, energized, or you're a little tired, like a green face, and then maybe you are really low in energy, which is a sign that you need to recharge and maybe take some rest. Stop working, go out for a walk. And then you see those bunch of vocabularies there. Feel free to also explore and then check in. And if you do that regularly on the dashboard page, you will keep track of all your feelings throughout every day that you check in. And that creates a good track record of your emotions, which you may not be aware of yourself, because emotions come and go, and without daily check-ins or regular check-ins, you may not see. There could be a pattern. It could be a sign that you need to take a break. It could be a pattern that during a certain hour of the day you're super energized, and that could be a sign to do something, to explore something more fun, such as do a challenge action. So I encourage you to check in your emotions every day, and research shows that it is not only helpful for your own well-being, but also helpful to build connection with others. Okay, so this part is really exciting and want to show you for those of you who already take some actions. And it's interesting for us to see how many actions that we have completed together in the first week of the challenge as a group. So this is the answer. We have completed all 240 actions by, I think, was 8 p.m. when I extracted that information from the Power BI dashboard. And you see for the Sustainable Living Challenge, we have completed 190 actions together, thanks to everyone who's part of this. And then for the Eat Ramble Challenge, there are 50 actions have been completed. And if you remember, we have linked all these actions to the Sustainable Development Goals. And if we split up the Sustainable Living Challenge, we will see 6 different SDGs. And right now you can see 38 actions have been completed for the good health and well-being goal, and 36 actions have been completed for responsible consumptions and productions, and so on and so forth. So this always gives me a little bit inspiration and encouragement when I feel down, when I feel demotivated. But when I see everyone is working hard towards a common goal, I feel very energized. I hope you feel the same as well. And then if we further split into each individual actions, and here is what you see. So we have completed together, bring your own cup or bottle goal action, 34 of them. So maybe we can safely assume that we have saved at least 34 paper cups. And then there's 26 actions completed for exercise for 20 minutes. And then have no leftover on your plate, 24 of them. So these are together the top 3 actions completed by the group. And in addition, I will see a lot of people are trying vegetarian meals, which is always good to see. 12 daily vegetarian meal per day, and actually there are 8 actions completed for all vegetarian meal today. These are real-time data. So next time when we come back, we will see a whole different numbers on this dashboard, and that's all thanks to everyone's contribution. And some of these actually link to today's topic, which is zero carbon. And just curious, maybe a quick question for everybody. Which of these actions do you think contributes to zero carbon? Anyone want to take a guess? Let me see in the chat. Feel free to use the chat. Vegetarian meals, yes, for sure. Anything else you think that contributes to our goal for zero carbon? Bring your own bottle, yes. I think they're also turn off your water when we're not in use, and also turn off the electronics, such as the rice cookers, which is not in use as well. So the reason why I keep mentioning zero carbon, I think you also are aware that today we have a special guest who's coming to tell us more about zero carbon and eat Rambo plant-based diet. Yes, of course. Thank you, Yi-Han. So now I would give the floor to Alvin to introduce our special guest.
Awesome. Thank you, Joanna. It's really cool to see all the actions different people are taking. And that's really fun to see. And hopefully I can't wait to see that number grow and grow and see how the graph changes. Awesome. So as Joanna mentioned, today we have a special guest to talk about zero carbon. And we're going to use this as a learning experience where we're going to learn from an expert about sustainable food systems. So our speaker today is Yi-Lin, and he's a PhD candidate in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at Stanford University. His research focuses on natural disaster mitigation and management, especially in flooding. And he's also a TA for Stanford environmental courses, recognized with a Centennial Teaching Assistant Award. And as you can see, he has just been spotlighted. Now go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's my great pleasure and honor to be here tonight. So let me share my screen, just a moment. Can you see the screen? And also please feel free to chime in if you have any question, because it would be hard for me to check the message in the chat room. So please feel free to interrupt me anytime, okay? So today I'm gonna talk about how to avoid a climate disaster, or basically more about zero carbon or net zero. And my name is Yi-Lin. I'm a PhD candidate in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at Stanford. And thanks for Valerie's invitation. So I have the chance to explore this topic with you all tonight. So let's take a poll first. I know we have done this earlier, but just warm up and then let's test this platform. Please grab your cell phone or open your browser and search menti.com. So, or also if you know how to scan the QR code, you can also scan the QR code here. Or let me also type the passcode in the chat room. This is just a survey, an online survey. And we were gonna see everyone's. So please, this is not where are you right now. I'm gonna ask that later, very soon. But here is like, where are you originally from? Okay, I see more. Wow, we have several California natives, Malaysia, USA, Korea. Well, now we have 22 responses so far. China, New York. And I guess you can only submit once. So before you hit submit, please be careful. But later on, I'm gonna ask you some other questions so we can explore or have more submissions. We have 43 people here. So let's see, let's do another 10 or 15 seconds and we're gonna jump to the next question. So again, so for those who just joined us, please go to menti.com. You can open your browser and just Google or search menti.com and use the passcode, the 8 digits passcode. We have some folks from Taiwan as well. Malaysia, nice. Okay, so now I think we're ready for the next question. This is all we're originating from, right? And now, oh, people are still. Can we go to the, are we ready to move on to the next question? I guess so, okay. How about, please share in which city are you currently staying? I know we do this on the map, but if you want to name it, let's see what the word cloud looks like. Looks like attendees from Los Angeles submit the locations very fast. Walnut, California, wow. So as you can see here, the larger the word, it means more people are from that place or city. New York, New Jersey, Orange County. So it sounds like most of us are in the United States right now, even though as you can see, we're all from all around the world originally, but right now we're standing here to talk about this zero carbon topic. And please feel free to continue to submit your location. In which city are you currently staying while I'm talking? So this will be a good memory for all of us tonight to see, oh, actually all the friends around the origin around the world, and right now we're staying in the United States and we're thinking about how can we help with the zero carbon or net zero era in the upcoming few years, or even just upcoming 30 days, right? Like the 30-day challenge we have so far, okay? So so for those just join us, please feel free to continue to submit your locations using the passcode I submitted in the chat room. So now I'm gonna switch back to my slides, and please feel free to continue to submit your responses. Okay. So we have done these two questions. And before we dive in, right, let me talk briefly about what I'm gonna talk about tonight. So I will briefly introduce why we want to talk about carbon zero, or the background about the carbon zero or net zero era, and why that is such a buzzword in recent years. And also, what is carbon zero? There are several similar terminologies out there. Even in the international climate change communities, it's easy to misunderstand them. And they are very confusing. But don't worry at all. I'm gonna give you climate change 101 or carbon zero 101 tonight, and let's learn this together, okay? And also, I will briefly talk about how can we make it, and hopefully I can help you to have a clear plan out there for the upcoming 30 days and make ourselves accountable for this net zero mission. Okay, so are you ready to the adventure tonight? So before I talk about this topic, I want to share a very brief video from Bill Gates. And this is from, actually, he just published a new book about this topic. So before I get started, I think I need to share the video. I need to share the video. Yes, I do. If you cannot hear me, please interrupt me directly, okay?
In a typical year, the world emits over 51 billion tons of greenhouse gases. And as we keep doing that, the consequences for human life will be catastrophic. When I first fell in love with computers as a teenager, they were enormous, expensive, and only the government and big companies could afford them. But my friends and I became obsessed with a wild idea. What could we do if there was a computer on every desk? And now the wild idea is quite tame. Billions of people not only have computers on their desks, but even in their pockets. Now the world needs another breakthrough. In fact, it needs many breakthroughs. We need to get from 51 billion tons to zero while still meeting the planet's basic needs. That means we need to transform the way we do almost everything. Our commitment to developing these innovations will mean the difference between a future where everyone can live a healthy, productive life and one where we're constantly dealing with the human and financial crises at a historic scale. Entrepreneurs and investors have to build new businesses and change existing businesses to get these solutions deployed. Government leaders have to enact new policies that drive the market for clean energy. And advocates have to keep their voices loud to hold all of us accountable for rapid progress. Avoiding a climate disaster will be one of the greatest challenges humans have ever taken on. Greater than landing on the moon, greater than eradicating smallpox, even greater than putting a computer on every desk. My basic optimism about climate change comes from my belief in innovation. It's our power to invent that makes me hopeful.
Okay, so Bill Gates did not pay me billions of dollars to say this or help him endorse this book, not at all. But
in a typical year,
I just wanted to use his words to reflect the truth that even he invested personal computer, right? He thinks we need more creative solutions or innovations to drive towards the net zero era in front of us. And also, as you can see, the challenge even will be harder than the computer era, right? Computer era will be more like, oh, that would be data privacy or some ethics issue. But this kind of climate change challenge or disasters, right? We cannot avoid it. Right now, we can just mitigate it. The reason why is because right now we're already on the path where we will go beyond the 2 degrees Celsius. So that's why we need carbon zero or net zero. And as you can see, I'm gonna talk more about why this matters. And just as I said earlier, right? Carbon zero has been probably, or net zero, probably would be another popular buzzword this year, in addition to COVID-19. If COVID-19 is the very first buzzword or important topic this year, net zero is probably the second one. Even the Times Magazine, as you can see here, the Times Magazine in April features this topic, climate is everything. And you can see the cover page is like, the world is burning, right? Like burning, like what? Like this. as you can see in recent years in California, just in our backyards, for those who are in California like me right now, you might still remember this, and the air pollutions out every year due to the wildfires. So recent years, especially this decade, the increasing frequency and severity of wildfire events really impacts us a lot. So as a PhD student who studies climate change and disaster mitigation and management, right? I'm thinking, how can I help this? When I look at this curve, right, the area burned has been dramatically increased over time in the past 30 years. And you can see, no matter which trend, right, we have two databases here. The Forest Service stopped to update after 1997. But according to the National Interagency Fire Center, or the studies from US EPA, the overall trend is we have more area burned from wildfires. The reason is correlated with climate change, and the carbon dioxide emission also increase. So how can we help them, like the couple here? Their home was leveled by the Camp Fire in Paradise Fire in California in 2018, right? So as a researcher, I'm also thinking, how can I help them, right? Using my research capabilities or our knowledge. So that's why I'm thinking, okay, I published this paper with some of my Stanford classmates and some professors here. We designed an app, an interactive app, to help them to survey the post-wildfire damaged buildings more quickly and in real time using artificial intelligence. If you are interested in reading this paper, please feel free to scan this paper by this QR code. And also, if you want to explore the interactive tool, right, as I said earlier, that is online for free to the public as well. So you can also scan the QR code here. And if I have any questions about this, please feel free to let me know. But here I'm just showing you what I've done so far is more like how to mitigate, how to respond to climate disasters. And if you are interested in more about our stories, why we want to do this, and how we started this project, please feel free to visit this Stanford Big Earth Hackathon page. Our project has won the first prize in the Stanford Big Earth Hackathon. So you can also scan this QR code to visit our story behind it. If you say, maybe wildfire is just the only disaster we need to care about because the temperature is getting higher and we have more carbon dioxide emission, the answer is no. Actually, in addition to wildfires, unfortunately, we have more frequent and extreme precipitation nowadays. Even this year and last year, right? The hurricane approaches the United States, and also like the cyclone Amphan in India and Bangladesh last year has caused millions of, at least 3 million of people evacuated from their home. And even the flooding in July in Japan this year, right? A lot of people died because of the debris flow. And also the serious flooding, record-breaking flooding in Europe this year has been a tragedy in European history. So I was also thinking, okay, in addition to wildfire, maybe I also need to think about a way, how can we kind of build a more resilient future, right? So that's why my another research is about how can we help people safely evacuate during the pandemic, like lots of people, right? As you can see, the top right corner, top left corner, the cyclone Amphan hit India and Bangladesh last year. And those people, as you can see, most of them did not wear masks at all. So this paper is really to use, I use artificial intelligence to simulate the process of evacuation routing, and also consider social distancing in the simulation. So again, if you are interested in this paper, please feel free to scan this. This is all just about how can we mitigate, how can we adapt to the climate disasters and respond to that, right? For example, we help people to quickly survey where the damaged buildings are and how can we safely evacuate people using artificial intelligence during the pandemic. But that is just one half of the weapons we have to combat climate change. All I have said is all about climate change adaptation. So there's another realm in the climate change research is called mitigation. So how can we mitigate it, right? Or in other words, slow down or decrease the potential hazards from those climate hazards? This is what we're gonna talk about today, carbon zero. So I read these confusing definitions for you from the IPCC, so you don't need to cram yourself from all these terminologies. This is from my understanding after I read those terminologies from the IPCC reports. Just for those who haven't heard of it, IPCC is the world leading institution that is called the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So every 5 years, they will publish a report about the latest climate research and the overall trend, and how can we achieve carbon zero or carbon neutrality in the future. So here I use this kind of bubble. I created this graph and try to visualize and help you understand what we are gonna talk about tonight. So what we're gonna talk about is actually just a very core, if you can see my mouse here, right? Net zero or carbon dioxide emissions, or here we call it carbon zero, right? That is also equals to carbon neutrality. Both terms are the same. But as you can see here, that is actually just a smaller universe we are trying to achieve. A bigger universe is called net zero emissions. It sounds very similar, right? Net zero carbon dioxide emissions and net zero emissions. What's the difference? The difference between these two terms will be net zero emissions not only consider carbon dioxide, we also consider other types of greenhouse gases, for example, methane, right? So those kind of greenhouse gases can contribute to global warming, and we want to balance out. So here I also want to clarify, net zero or carbon zero does not mean that we don't emit carbon dioxide anymore. We just want to find some ways or solutions to balance or counterbalance the carbon dioxide emissions we produced every day or annually. So that is just about how can we balance out. So net zero emissions, on the other hand, is we want to balance the greenhouse gas emissions we have by some technologies or solutions, so we can balance the addition to the atmosphere. And these are the two smaller universe. Let's jump to the bigger one. The bigger one is called net negative emissions. That is actually more ambitious than the previous two previous universes I just mentioned. Net negative emissions, meaning we want to consider all kinds of possible greenhouse gases. And we not only want to achieve net zero, we want to even have negative emissions, meaning we reduce more greenhouse gas emissions than the ones we emit to the atmosphere, right? That is a very ambitious goal. But here actually, right now, as human being, what we're trying to achieve is actually just a smaller universe. But even the smaller universe has been very challenging for us to achieve, given the latest and the recent years trend of carbon dioxide emissions. I'm gonna talk about the global trend very soon. Okay. What questions do you have so far before I move on? If not, okay, let me move on. Interrupt me anytime if you have any questions. So let me talk about where did the goal of carbon zero appear, okay? So actually this happened 6 years ago in 2015. So there were 196 parties or countries to the Paris Agreement. They are committed to the goal of well below 2 degrees Celsius. Ideally, they want to achieve 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. To achieve this, based on their research, they found if we want to achieve this goal, basically 2 degrees Celsius or 1.5 degrees Celsius, the global carbon dioxide emissions need to be reduced by at least 45% by 2030 from the 2010 levels. So we only have 8 years left, right? And the other hand will be reach the net zero emissions by 2050. So that is still not long. We don't have enough time ahead of us, right? So in addition to achieve this goal, we really need net zero or carbon zero to help us to limit the temperature rise below 2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. So this is where the net zero or carbon zero emissions from. And actually another upcoming conference in the United Nations, and this year we call it COP. COP is just an abbreviation of Conference of the Parties. So this year the COP26 will take place in UK, and this is an annual climate change United Nations climate change conference in UK. And if you are interested in United Nations, please feel free to. I think our expert here is Joanna. Valerie said Joanna has been working in United Nations for several years. So United Nations gather all the countries around the world to this COP conference every year and discuss how can we achieve the net zero goal. And this year is actually just not, this year the COP26 would happen in 7 days, actually will be next week's. So this COP26 will be an important turning point because one of my advisors, he was the director of the IPCC report. And he said, because this year is the first year after the United States came back to the Paris Agreement since President Trump. So President Biden came back to the Paris Agreement this year. And this COP26 will be the very first one for the United States to kind of commit and maybe help the international communities to rethink how can we achieve this together. And hopefully this year will be a turning point for the world to kind of have a more concrete plan ahead of us and for the government to get involved. But we're going to talk about the personal sides very soon, because you may think actually those negotiations between governments, they are so far away from us, right? Why should we care about that, right? Here is the fact. So according to the United Nations reports, latest reports, I just got this a few days ago, actually. So the carbon dioxide concentrations has been increasing over the past few decades, as you can see. And even right now in 2021 or 2020, the global average has been the record high as well, exceeding the 410 parts per million. That is the record high. And before I dive into the next part, I also want to ask you, do you think your daily carbon dioxide emissions decreased during the COVID-19 pandemic? And again, please open your browser on your phone or computer and search menti.com. And the passcode, I believe that would be different this time. So the QR code would be different too. So if you have, you know how to use QR code scanning tool, please feel free to scan the QR code here. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Yi-Han, for helping me to type in the passcode. So after you go to menti.com, the passcode is in the chat room. While you're doing this, right, I'm gonna switch to the real-time platform for this. Just a moment, very quickly. You can see some bubbles coming in. So far, 12 people think your daily carbon dioxide emissions decrease, and 5 people say, I'm not sure. So I think this reflects overall that is basically your guess, right? And please feel free to continue to submit your question if you haven't, but I'm gonna talk more about why I asked this question. Oh, one person said, actually, I have more carbon dioxide emissions. In the Q&A session, I will be interested in learning more why you think your carbon dioxide emissions increase during the pandemic, if you are willing to share. So you will still have the access to this survey while I'm talking. So please feel free to submit, continue to submit. But now I'm gonna switch back. So I think most of your tuition is correct. According to the research from United Nations, right? This is the trend, what happened in COVID-19. So this is the monthly evolution of global carbon dioxide emissions in 2020 relative to 2019. So you can see from January to November, yes, the overall global trend is less than negative, meaning we decrease or have less carbon dioxide emission compared to the same time in 2019. But here is a warning here. I pinpoint here for you. That has been 2% above compared to the December 2019. Here is a sign here, right? When the society or the global communities are reopening, people tend to have more carbon dioxide emissions. So this kind of dividends from or the advantage from people shelter in place and have less carbon dioxide emissions, actually that is a short term. So really here is a turning point for us again. Can we grab the opportunity in front of us during the pandemic and rethink the current strategies or the upcoming pathway ahead of us? How can we decrease the possible carbon dioxide emissions after we come back in-person activities, right? And even the latest research just published yesterday, as you can see here, October 22nd. I just grabbed this for you in front of you. So how the research topic here is, the research paper is talking about how ambitious are those oil and gas companies' climate goals, right? The answer is, I hope you read this paper already. The answer is no. Most of them are not well prepared. And even for those companies have commitments to the net zero goal, right? Only 2 companies, but their goal is below the net zero goal according to the IPCC. Actually, that is well below the 2 degrees Celsius goal. So their goal want to achieve by the mid 21st century, that is not exactly the same as the net zero we want to achieve right now in IPCC or in Paris Agreement, meaning there is still rooms to improve in the oil and gas, because oil and gas companies has been contributed more than a half of the carbon dioxide emissions, because as you can see, the cars we're driving and all kinds of products, those fossil fuels are important in our daily lives. So really the question is, how can we make sure we reach net zero by other technologies like this graph shows? So as you can see here, we're standing here 2021, and to reach the goal below 2 degrees Celsius, right? According to this research report from National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, if we want to reach net zero, right, what we need to do is we not only need to decrease or replace the current emitting technologies like the fossil fuels or oil and gas products, we need to replace them by the conventional abatement technologies, which would not emit any carbon dioxide, like the renewable energy, solar and wind farms, etc. Right? But that is not enough. In order to achieve the net zero greenhouse gas emissions or net zero carbon emissions, we also need some gross negative carbon dioxide emissions from the carbon removal technologies. Carbon removal technologies including, you might have heard, carbon capture and storage, meaning we capture the carbon in our atmosphere and store them in underground. This technology is an emerging technology, but it can help us to grab more carbon dioxide in our atmosphere and put them underground, so that won't cause any global warming in the future. So as you can see, renewable energy will play an important role, and would oil and gas companies willing to participate and cooperate to help achieve this goal will be the majority part of that. But in addition to renewable energy or clean energy, or even we eat less meat, right? That is not enough. We even need to think about some innovations to remove carbon dioxide from our atmosphere. That's why Bill Gates said we need a lot more innovations than the personal computer revolution he did. So let's make net zero happen together. How can we do this, right? And I just talked about this new book from Bill Gates, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster. I remember when he came to Stanford about 2 years ago, and that was a conference about artificial intelligence. And I was brave enough, I think as a young student, I raised my hand and asked Bill Gates about how can we use AI to combat climate change. He said, AI cannot do anything, but we do need some innovation technologies like AI to help us to achieve that goal. And he thinks that how can we have a sustainable food to feed more people around the world, like the zero hunger goal I see from your 30-day challenge, right? That is one of the SDGs. So here are some suggestions from the personal level suggestions Bill Gates thinks we can achieve. For example, if we are willing to pay, if we can and willing to pay more for those who can afford the technologies which are more expensive, right? If we're willing to pay more for the energy saving products, that would be an important sign for the manufacturers saying, hey, actually we observe that our customers are willing to pay more, and actually that would be the future trend for the industry. So if we are willing to buy those products, that will encourage those companies to lower down the costs and then compete to give the best service in the long term. So he also thinks that even that is a bit more expensive, right? If more people are willing to buy those energy saving products, even they are more expensive, that will help in the long term in the future. And also another traditional way he suggested would be we can vote or urge politicians to take actions, for example, change regulations, etc. And another another suggestion from him would be reduce your household carbon dioxide emissions. For example, you can replace your LED, or when you need to renovate your houses, right? You can choose energy saving building materials, so you don't need to turn on your AC, air conditioner often. Another trend so far in recent year would be the electric vehicles. So Bill Gates also encourages, if you can choose and you can afford, right, you can purchase electric vehicles, because the transportation actually will also plays an important role in the net zero mission. And another thing, I think I don't need to mention it, because I believe all the friends in Tzu Chi here has been having vegan food. It has been doing extremely well here. So those who wants to eat meat, he suggested we can choose the vegan burger, like this kind of vegan choice. And I know Tzu Chi has been doing here in this realm very well. So right now, let's go to the same link, right? Open your browser again and go to menti.com, and also enter the same passcode, or you can scan the QR code. Here we have the 30-day challenge for your sustainable plate, right? For the upcoming months. So here are some SDGs for you to brainstorm. What are the 1 to 3 actions you want to do in the next 30 days? Can you think about any way? For example, you want to encourage your friends, and even you have go vegan already, right? You can say, I want to invite my roommates or one of my best friends to have at least 1 vegan meal per week, etc. Or you can say, I'm gonna ride my bikes to the place I work instead of drive my car. Or you can say, I would like to do carpool. As I said, pandemic helped us to reduce the carbon dioxide in the short term. But right now, people are coming back to their workspace or schools, right? While children are coming back to schools and employees are coming back to their companies, now we're gonna have a new way to live a greener life. Otherwise, we will continue to increase the carbon dioxide in front of us. I saw a message here. It says waiting for the next slide. Oh, so you cannot see it, or? Oh, I see. So I need to say, wait, hold on a second. I need to say, how about now? I believe if you refresh the page, or I think your screen. Yes, thank you, Yi-Han, for your confirmation. So I'm gonna switch to the slides. So again, you can go to your search or Google menti.com and enter the passcode 55028890. And I believe you can submit multiple ideas. So you can submit as many ideas as you want for this question. So hopefully this will help each other to brainstorm some possible actions we can do together. Eat vegetarian meals. Healthy living sounds good. Could you provide more information about what do you mean by healthy living? Bring your own bottles and straws. I think that is not only a green strategy right now, and even safer, right? I remember I attended some conference on campus at Stanford now, and they don't provide any paper cups anymore. One is because they want to go green, and the other would be because of pandemic, right? They don't want to share the same utensils. So actually they encourage people to bring your own bottles. So as you can see, the slide is moving. We have more answers coming in. So please feel free to submit more. And I think if possible, I will share this with Joanna or the host tonight, so you can have a record after my talk and help each other. Really here, it's like the idea is to how can we help each other to brainstorm some possible way or inspired by some other crazy or creative ideas from other people. Limit plastic bag usage. Yes, that is what I have done in the past few months. I recycle and reuse the same plastic bag. Even right now, right, in supermarkets, you may want to bring your own bags because you don't want to bring new products into your home to avoid any virus or any potential health risks. So here are some ideas you can try. As I move on, please feel free to submit, continue submit more. And now I'm gonna go back to my slides in the, okay. Let me stop share. Okay, so while you are still providing your ideas for all your friends at Siji here, I'm gonna give you a conclusion here tonight. So just a reminder, it takes time to see the effect of reducing carbon dioxide emissions and gradually reach the goal of net zero or carbon zero. The reason is according to NASA's research, right? Carbon dioxide can exist in our atmosphere for 300 to thousands of years once we emit it, believe it or not. It takes a long time for the carbon dioxide to be removed from our atmosphere. So that's why net zero or carbon zero has been so important right now. Even Bill Gates said for the upcoming 10 years, nothing else will be more important than net zero. Because as the graph I showed you from national academies earlier in the earlier slides, right? If we don't decrease the carbon dioxide from this year and gradually reach the net zero, we cannot live or afford to live on Earth by the end of this century. That is from the research. And another important message, key takeaway would be net zero is feasible, especially if every country, city, or citizens like you and me adopt realistic plans for transitioning to net zero emissions by 2050. We don't need to wait for that long. We can take actions right now or for tonight, right? So that's why I encourage you to think about how can you do this and also use the app from Pratt, like Joanna introduced us earlier in tonight's event. And another closing note would be everyone can play an important role in the pathways to net zero. So thank you so much for joining me tonight, and let's work together for zero carbon. Thank you. And if you have any questions, comments, or you want to collaborate with me for research, please feel free to email me here. Okay.
Thank you so much, Yi-Lin. That's amazing. I've learned so much today. I'm sure all of our audience here learned a lot as well. I wanted to thank you for the time and effort that you put into making this presentation. And I'm sure everyone is feeling super motivated. And just wondering if anyone have any questions for our speaker here today. Thank you, Yi-Lin. I think now today, there's a lot of good questions, and then we have learned a lot from you. Appreciate your time. If there's any more questions from the audience, would you be able to maybe take them through emails since you shared your email with us just now?
Yes, I'm gonna type it in the chat.
I'm sure our young audience today are learning a lot from you and hope your time is also well spent here tonight. And thanks so much for sharing the email in the chat. And what about the slides? Would you be able to share the presentation slides with the young audience? I think a lot of them are high schooler here today, and they must be really inspired, and your slides will be helpful for them to learn more as well.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah, Thank you, thank you. Really, really grateful. Let's together thank Yi-Lin for his presence with us today. Okay,
So much. My
thank
pleasure.
you.
Yeah, thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you, thank you. And then finally, we are wrapping up today's webinar. Just a few closing words. So please, if you haven't signed up for the challenge, as encouraged by Yi-Lin here today as well, take our personal actions and maybe follow our social media as well to see the updates of the group activity, the group progress we will be sharing here. As just now you have seen the Power BI report, and then you will be getting notifications on the webinars, and then see other people's stories for encouragement as well. And if you do want to join our social media campaign, you can use this hashtag my sustainable plate and etc. All these hashtags available for you. So thanks so much. Yeah, any closing words or feedback from Alvin and anyone else today?
No. Last couple things, as Joanna mentioned, just take a look. Here's our social links. If you have any questions when you join, just email us, or if you have questions about the app, go ahead and email Cred. If you have other questions, you can always ask us offline. And last but not least, thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Hope I learned a lot today, and I hope you all learned a lot too. And hopefully you'll be part of our next webinar. Okay. If you have any questions, you feel free to stay. Otherwise, have a wonderful day, have a wonderful night, and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.